Yeah, fastball. Start off with fastball, and when it hits the part that we all laughed our asses off about, then Britton will start walking in.
Yes. Sometimes I feel like I am stuck behind the wheel of possibility, however it may roam.
All right, this is the final installment in the latest episode of Crosstalk. I'm back with Britton and Henry.
Hey.
And we got some viewer mail this week, so we're going to go ahead and get some viewer mail. Britton,
viewer mail.
The viewer mail song, please.
I don't have a viewer. Oh, let's find out.
Is this a good tat? You've got questions and concerns, and you have some pee that burns. Viewer mail, viewer mail, viewer mail.
Thank you, Britton. We have mail from Jay, who writes us regarding his interface. He says, I have a question for Crosstalk Cast that I'm hoping to get an answer to. I currently own a PreSonus Fire Studio that I run to my Mac Pro as a recording interface. At the moment, I own a Shure SM7, not 57, because of the type of vocals I record, more aggressive stuff. But I'm finding it hard to get the amount of gain I need to really make the vocals stick out in the mix. My budget is about 500, give or take 50. Is it really a new mic that I should be looking for? And he, in parentheses, says condenser. Or should I be more concerned with getting a really nice mic pre instead? FMR, RNP, True P Solo. Either way, what do you suggest? Thanks in advance for your feedback. Jay. Well, Jay, what do you guys think? I think we talked about this for a little bit.
See, the problem is not your actual your mic or the preamp section. It's about there's a certain amount of gain that you're going to max out before overloading your preamps on any sort of thing, and that is in ratio to you having to actually mix. A guitar in a mix is always going to be louder than your vocals if you set them perceivably, because there's more noise and frequency spectrum that you're dealing with.
Right.
Especially when you're in the middle of thrashcore and you're like. Woof. You know, and you need to get
I think that was gore grind, actually. But.
Gore grind?
Gore grind.
Woof. Anyways, so in that sort of certain case, you have to remember that you're going to bring down the level on everything else.
Right.
And push your vocals up, and then you're going to compress everything on the end of your master compressor to smash it all together and make it seem like everything's perceivably loud overall. That has nothing to do with gain. Now, if you wanted to spend your money on a preamp, there's tons of great preamps that you can buy, but is it really necessary? I doubt it.
I think I agree with a lot of what you're saying, but that's more for a situation of a real studio. Whereas with a lot of these interfaces, they do have kind of quiet preamps, at least from my experience, and sometimes you do need an external preamp. I mean, just to get the decibels up there. I do agree with the mixing, and when it comes down to getting your levels and then boosting them all up with compression and equalizing and mastering.
Especially, I mean, if you're talking the lower end. Although he is using a Fire Studio.
The Fire
See,
Studio
I've done a whole album on a Fire Studio with in 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of these speed recording sort of things, where you gotta you're gonna record a folk album and you just do it as fast as humanly possible.
Right.
And so I didn't have any problem with the gain preamps. I mean, it's one of those things that I'm kind of in awe. You would need to buy a preamp for a dynamic microphone that you're only going to be screaming into, essentially. You know what I mean?
Well, Shure even says it on their website that sometimes a lot of their dynamic mics are going to be a little quieter with interfaces like that, and you might need to get a separate preamp.
I don't know. I really don't see that as a huge issue as much as the mixing, because even if you're at minus 20, you know what I mean? You have enough level to actually push it, because what you can do is normalize the signal. You can bring it up.
Yeah.
You can do a lot of processing that would save you that money, and you can go dump it in buying a pair of Mackies or some really nice monitors.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or getting a really good compressor or a really awesome limiter. That money can be saved and put more towards a better thing, because the only preamps that I would actually say are going to make a difference are not these $500 preamps. I'm talking about you need to go out and get some API or Neve shit,
or an Avalon or something.
Yeah,
right.
Stay away from the. I have such a huge problem with that that process.
I'm sorry I said anything.
No, it's just
keep my mouth shut.
Dude, it's great for pseudo gospel bass. I mean, like that's the only thing that I've found that I've heard that I actually like it on. Maybe R&B vocals, but like it's not the end all be all. I think it's like, honestly, I consider it like a $700 or $800 piece of equipment, not $1,000. Its range of use is very limited. For you, you want Neve, man. You want coloration. You want balls. You want grit. Get a Neve preamp if you really need to spend that money, but you're looking at like at least $700 to $800.
Yeah.
Okay, well, his budget is $500. So what would you recommend?
New monitors.
New monitors.
Get a better mix.
Cool. Well, let's move on. The next mail's pretty long, so let's take a look at it. This is from Rich, and he says, peace to us. Here are 2 questions which you might not hear often, but I bet a lot of people could benefit from knowing about. Okay, number 1. When I'm recording an electric guitar direct to my mixer audio interface, which is a Tascam FW1082, the raw tone I get is not great. The input has a switch for high Z, which I have engaged. That's supposed to cover my impedance matching, correct? Well, it doesn't seem like it. Compared to the higher quality recordings I've heard from the guitar recorded direct to mixer, my recordings sound like they are missing a bit of the high end. In other words, they are somewhat lifeless and dull. I'm getting good, strong levels, so that's not an issue. What's missing? Do I need a DI box to get a nice tone from my guitar? If so, please recommend a few. Otherwise, how can I get the best sound when recording electric guitar direct?
An interesting situation. I never really would recommend recording guitar direct like that unless A, you're going to be reamping,
right,
or B, you're going to be using some sort of software. I'm sure we could talk for hours about the ins and outs and pitfalls of guitar software, but I mean, when you're recording direct to the board like that, all you're getting is your magnetic pickup. I mean, when he was talking about the high Z, we don't know what kind of pickups his guitar has, so we don't know if they're active or passive. We don't know which one he's supposed to be matching to.
High Z, let's kind of define the term. It's a high impedance.
Yeah.
Most line level is at a lower impedance. That's why it's called high impedance. Guitar high, line level, keyboard low. And then you have, even lower impedance for your microphone, way low. And then your signal-to-noise ratio, it differs between all 3 of those impedance levels.
Right.
All right? And where it operates in the spectrum of what line level is concerned, which is supposed to be like 0. All right? We can address that another day. That's just kind of a brief overview of what you got to take into account. The reason why your guitar sounds, quote-unquote, are lacking highs is that, like, when you go direct into it, your magnetic pickups don't pick up high strings as loudly as low strings because of the mass. It's just solid mass movement.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, so you have to deal with that. What you do
also depends on how high he's got his pickup adjusted.
Yeah, you can like angle it.
You're usually supposed to have the lighter strings. The pickup is supposed to be closer to those because the vibrations are less. It's harder for them to pick it up.
Yeah, I mean, but that's like those are a whole bunch of factors. But that's not going to save the mix thing. Is that you're going to have to, like, let's say you want a clean tone, just bust out the EQ, man. Just cue it, gain it. Get done with it. I would say, like, if you're trying to like get some distortion and all that other stuff, my first inclination is to reamp. If you really got to use a modeler, go ahead. But I'll make fun of you.
Okay. I mean, I recorded using a modeler through our Sapphire interface last week.
I'm gonna make fun of you.
I know you are. Okay, but I mean, it was a matter of necessity. The guy came over. He just got like done touring with the circus, so like all of his crap's in storage. And so we're like, okay, bring your guitar over. We'll figure it out. And we put it into Guitar Rig, but the problem is, I mean, you can make it sound acceptable, but the problem is you sit there tweaking for so much longer than you would if you just took the amp and were like, okay, here's my AKG Performance 400 mic, here's my amp, and send it into the interface. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, the thing is that a modeler is not going to offer the same like actual like sound levels like SPL. Like you're.
Well, no, I'm aware of that, but I'm saying in like if it's a push-to-come situation, you don't have a lot of money, you're stuck in that situation. That makes sense. But what I'm surprised by is the number of guitarists who seem to have an amp.
Well, I mean, like, that's just because everybody and their mom plays guitar. I mean, I'm serious. My mom can play guitar, and his mom can play guitar, and your mom can play guitar.
Well, yeah, I guess that's the difference between somebody like, I have a full 88-key workstation,
yeah,
but that's because I've been playing piano for like 14 years.
Yeah, but
versus somebody with a microchord who's just like, I have a keyboard. So that does make sense then. Yeah.
They're also in a noise band in Lower Manhattan, and they're the shit. Anyways, no, like the best way you're going to do that is like I said, EQing and stuff like that. And what tone? Just really think about what you're trying to go for. If you're just trying to get like a clean jazzy tone, you don't really need to do anything besides just like
Neck
EQ,
pickup, a little EQ.
Yeah, a little EQ. Maybe normalize it. Really like try to raise the levels by limiting and normalizing that signal to noise ratio so you get a louder perceived sound. Pretty much it, dude.
Cool. All right, question 2. If I use a high-quality plug-in compressor such as Waves or UAD and record or print the compressed output to my track, does it give me the same bit depth, i.e. quality, that I would receive from an analog compressor positioned before the input? I'm weighing the option of buying a nice analog compressor, but I'm happy with the compression I'm getting using different plugins. As such, I'm trying to see what distinct advantages, if any, there are to having an outboard compressor whose primary function would be to transparently produce consistent levels when I'm tracking. Thanks, guys. Looking forward to the next episode, and I hope you keep it going. Peace, Rich.
You're dealing with a whole mess of theory issues.
I think there's a kind of easy answer, though. It just depends on the bit depth of the compressor plugin that he's using. In the end, he's not going to get anything higher than what the bit depth on that compressor is.
See, all right. I talked about this and touched on it a little bit before, like last time we talked about dither and stuff like that.
Yeah.
All right, so remember when we talked about why dither is there? It's adding noise so the bits crunch the noise so you get better frequencies and response. Same sort of relationship, and it's kind of a natural dither response as you take something to a compressor, your noise, because it's going to be noisy going out, there's going to be noise coming back in. You're actually taking away, and you're inadvertently dithering your audio when you do that. It has an advantage. There's also an advantage to actual circuit response if you buy a nice compressor that just sounds very overall warmer. You know what I mean? Plugins do a great job modeling at it, and trust me, I've had to use a lot of plug-in compressors, a lot. But you know, if you're really like all about them, just use them. It's cool. If you're getting a good sound out of them, it's cool. If you want, I recommend getting at least one normal compressor because they just sound different than the digital ones.
Especially in the difference between pre and post.
Yeah.
Right.
You know.
It's a huge difference.
Yeah,
So.
there is.
Thanks a lot, Britton. And if you have any questions you want to send to us, feel free to email us at crosstalk@gearwire.com. You can send criticism, complaints, questions, concerns, and general gear problems. Again, I'm Bill Holland. This has been Britton Wetherald and Henry Bianco, and we'll be back in another 2 weeks with the next Crosstalk.
Woof.